Okay. Some extra things over here. Wow. Okay, so hello. So what yeah, welcome to the Aalto Fablab. So what I'm going to talk about today as a connecting point to the computer-controlled cutting lecture yesterday is how to do vinyl cutting and laser cutting at the lab. And in order to laser cut or vinyl cut, we'll need also to produce files for it. And I'm just going to show you some basic workflow, how to create the files, and then how to cut these files using the vinyl cutter, how to set up the vinyl cutter, how to load the material, and then also how to do the same with the laser cutter. So, and here we go. So there's Illustrator. Can I just make it full screen? So it's full screen. So also the software that we use here to drive the vinyl cutter and the laser cutter, it's Adobe Illustrator. So for the vinyl cutter, we use a Roland Cut Studio plugin, and for the laser cutter, there's the Epilog laser driver and the laser itself, it acts as a printer that is connected to the computer. So the first thing that you should do in Illustrator is to make sure that you are using millimeters as units. Okay, and then when you're creating a new file, then so you make sure also that the units are millimeters, and that if you go under advanced options, that the color is set to RGB color. So this is important because as like in the laser cutter, you'll be able to map certain colors to specific laser parameters. And these the colors that the laser driver recognizes, they are in RGB format. So make sure that you have RGB. So the raster effects, so these you don't have to touch those. So these are the basic effects, the basic parameters that you need to change. Then you can hit create. No, I don't want it now, sorry. And so yeah, you can quickly see what is the color mode of the current file that you're working on over here. So it's RGB. Then you can use the Artboard tool to resize the canvas. So you can do it manually like this, or you can use the transform over here. So let's set it to something realistic, like 40 centimeters by 40 centimeters, or 400 millimeters by 400 millimeters. Okay, you can also give a name to the artboard. Name is gonna be design, or to make it more generic, like my design. And so in vinyl cutting and laser cutting, so the main thing that matters is line. So the vinyl cutter and the laser cutter, they accept lines, vector lines as input to do the cutting. And then for the laser cutter specifically, lines, when they are closed, they are forming shapes, and for engraving, it is important to have a shape or something filled. So I'm gonna draw something really, so I'm gonna take this tool and draw something really basic, like this shape here. Yeah. And then I think I can use something like this in order to make it smooth. Yeah, like so. And so for the vinyl cutter, it really does not matter so much what is the line thickness, but for the laser cutter it does. So you'll be able to set the line thickness to 0.01 millimeter over here. And then if you want to engrave something, then you can set the color. So the basic things that the laser cutter is going to accept is the line and the infill, so the black color for both. So, and make sure that this is pure black, meaning that all the RGB values are zeros. And the same goes for the fill. 0 for everything. Yeah. So this is one way how to make a shape in Illustrator. So another thing that you might feel interesting using is text. And for vinyl and laser cutting, it is important to have this text as outlines. So I'm just gonna increase this. So in the case of laser cutting, so if it's not converted into outlines, the laser is going to try to engrave that. But you have to either right-click and create outlines and check whether it is outlines or not. So now I just hit Command Y or Control Y on Windows in order to see what is lines and what is not. So for example, if I go one step back and it's still editable text and I hit that, then it's going to show up as editable text. So it's the only outline that you can see is this line over here. That's not good. So one way how to convert this into outlines is to right click and hit create outlines, or you can go to type create outlines here. So this is about text. Another thing that you might find useful is, for example, you find something interesting on Google Images, or you have an image. Yeah, let's say, what should I look for? And I'm going to look for a polar bear that is PNG and black and white. Look, really nice. This looks good. So I'm going to copy it, go to Illustrator, and paste it in like so. So it kind of seemingly transparent, but it's not really. So maybe that's not a good choice. We could additionally look for, or let's just take one of these. Let's take this one. Copy image, edit, paste. Yeah. So, and it kind of looks like outlines, but then if we hit Command Y, we see that it's not outlines at all. And for vinyl cutting and laser cutting, you want to get outlines. So how to do that? So you go to Object, then you go to Image Trace and hit Make. And you hit Command Y, it's still not outlines. In order to get the outlines, so you can, so if it's a color image, you can choose different presets over here. So in order to really get what you want, so let's say that your image consists of 4 colors and you would like to cut vinyl, so four different colors of vinyl, and overlap that, then you should separate these layers, and then you just select the amount of colors, and it's going to try to do the calculations in a way that to match these colors, and separate those as vector fills. But yeah, you have to hit expand. Now we have outlines. So you see there's this rectangle around, which is kind of something that we do not want really. So you need to clean the image a little bit. So we can ungroup it first. And then, so even though it's ungrouped, so it sometimes groups in groups. And yeah, and then you can remove the shapes that you don't really need. Just deleting those. And you see like this polar bear now. It's nicely outlined. So there's an outline. Yeah. And then as for engraving, so if you set these to plain outlines, then this is going to be cut. So and these have to be also 0.01 in just for the laser cutter. Just to improve the visibility, we can just make them 0.1. And then you can make the infill in different colors, and for the infill colors it's usually good to choose like RGB, like clean RGB colors. So RGB translates to red, green, blue. So for pure red you would choose 255 of red. So the 255 is there because each of the channels is it can have 256 values. So this is because every channel by default is 8 bits or 1 byte long, and if you use a little bit of combinatorics and you assume that a bit can be on or off, so these are 2 positions, and then there are 8 positions, so not positions but 8 of them. So then number of combinations that you get from that can be calculated by using this formula. So that's 2 as a base, and then 8 is the amount of bits, and so it's kind of 2 in power of 8. So and this is where you get 256 combinations. And this is why usually RGB is like that. So 255 is the maximum and 0 is the minimum. So that's if you start counting from 0, then yeah, you will understand. So the color can be for a channel. So value for a channel can be 0, which is black or nothing, or like completely bright red in this case when it's R, or 255. And then if you want green, then you can do it for so yeah, let's add green here. And you can also have mix of these channels. So for example, if you mix red with green, you'll get yellow. And in general, for mapping these colors to laser cutter parameters, so it's better to use these clean RGB values. So for vinyling and laser cutting, so the way they look, so this might really not match your visual taste. So so for vinyl and laser cutting, it doesn't really matter because the material is going to dictate what the colors are going to be anyways, the material and then the settings. Yeah, so these are just a few basic things about how you can manipulate shapes. Maybe you have a question or suggestion what you would be interested in exploring in that regard. Maybe let's try like a multicolor example. So like polar bear, PNG, multicolor.
It was mentioned last week that you can make like stickers for your laptop.
It's 4 o'clock.
Yeah, so this is the multicolor example, pretty much what I wanted to show. Let's see, so this looks okay. So edit, paste. Let's see what it's going to do when we are going to trace it. So we go to Object, Image Trace, make. Oh, actually did well. So let's say that we have 3 colors over there. What is it going to do with 6 colors? Okay, can we customize? Maybe we can set it to 5 here. And less, like 4. Okay, 5. Let's expand. So you see it also took this part. Huh. Now we will need to do a little bit of labor intensive, which means removing those individually. Ah, yes, that's a good point. Yeah, let's select those.
You can select similar, select one of the brown pieces.
Oh, yeah, and select same fill color, and then this and that and that. Oh, and also there's the internal. Yeah. There's also, yeah, well, the teddy. So nice. And then we have these. And so for vinyl cutting, it's not going to be so important to maybe specifically, you don't need to specify the color, but what is going to be important to select the shapes that you want to cut. Yeah, but this is how you do it. So you separate you use the image trace thing in order to separate those. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to save this file onto a flash drive, and then I'm going to make a 5-minute break, and we are going to switch over to the vinyl cutter. No, I don't want to back up. So here's the Fab Lab. My design. Save. Okay. Another note about the Illustrator here is that if you use your university account, so yeah, if at some point the Illustrator doesn't work, so there are 2 things to check. So whether there's a VPN connection, and then if the Illustrator account, if it seems that it's not working, then just use your Aalto account in order to log into it, and it should work. It should be able to access the local license server and work. Yeah, so 5-minute break. So instead of using the projector, so you should gather around here. So this is where I'm going to show the main stuff. So this is the vinyl cutter, so the Roland GX-24. So it comes from the Fab Academy inventory. So there are other machines, but what it basically is, it's an X-axis, so here, where the blade is mounted. So it's moving, from the right to the left and vice versa. And then there's a blade installed over here. So you can take it off by using this one. So you can release it like so. And then, I'm gonna make a backup recording as well. So so it has a little bump, which is the blade itself, and when you open it up, you'll see that there's the blade mounted. So if it gets old, so if it wears out, you can replace it. And so we have replacement blades. And if you need so this is this blade is specifically, so it's good for cutting vinyl or the transfer tape. But if you need to cut some other material, then you should maybe check for the other blades that we have. So if you need to cut something thicker, then it might be useful to replace the blade with something else. The angle matters. So the steeper the angle, so the longer the blade is, the better it is for these thin materials. And then for thicker materials, you need like a bit, how to say, like a wider angle. It's hard to describe. I'm missing the terminology here, but so you need it's stronger. So the blade shouldn't be so long, but it should be shorter. So the angle should be more like this, not like this, so that it can withstand the resistance from the material and kind of cut deeper. But then you can put this back here. And then the other axis is controlled by this metal rod. So this is what is moving the material forward and backward. This is how the y-axis happens, like the movement of the blade along the y-axis happens. And the material is being clamped in between this rod. So here you can see that there are, so the rod has teeth over here, where and the teeth they allow to grab the material. And then you can see also that there are these white marks, and these white marks point out where the rod has the teeth. And then from the other side of the machine, you can move around these little rollers. These are little wheels, and there are two of them. And then these little wheels can be used to compress, to kind of tack down or create pressure, so that the material is being properly pressed against these teeth, so that the teeth can grab the material and pull it forward and backward. So that's that. To turn on the machine, you press this button, and it's going to try to initialize. And next to the machine, to the right, you have there's a big box with leftover material, and you can use this to do all kinds of tests. So if you're sometimes even for the final, not for the final project, but for the thing that you want to have, it's just enough to have a scrap piece. So sometimes even when people buy stuff, so they leave a lot of useful material behind. So let's take this. I think the canvas that we set in the Illustrator before, it was 40 by 40 millimeters. So this looks like approximately the size, but it seems that there's something cut on it already. So yeah, this is kind of a good size, I think. So I'm just gonna cut off the part that is not so good. Yeah, so that's the scrap material, and then under the table there's fresh material, and here to the right that's also fresh material. So if you wish to have something specific, then also let me know. I will add it to the list and order it. So then, yeah, so this one that I'm holding in hand, so this is the sticker material. So you can recognize that it has this printed background, and that the brightest part of it is on top of it. And if you just try to remove the corner, you will notice that the sticky part, you'll be able to tell where. So if it's sticky in the middle, this means that it's the sticker material. So here, so this means that you can. So if you cut it from the top, then you can remove the top, and you can stick the top side on somewhere. So you can use that as a sticker. So for the heat press vinyl, it's a bit different. So let's see, where do we have the heat press? Okay, this blue one looks like it. It's a bigger roll. So it's a bit different with the heat press vinyl. So it seems that this is the side that has to be cut, but in fact this other side is the one that has to be cut. Because, so if you take a look, yeah, so if you take this apart, yeah, then you will see. So this kind of seemingly saturated or shiny part, it's not the top part. It's not the side that has to be cut. It has to be the other side, and the other side is a bit, how to say, matte or not so bright, because it's the side that has to be glued, that has to kind of stick into the material, melt into the material. And when you remove it like this, you will see that so this vinyl part, so it's still kind of nice on this side, and you clearly, so you're sure that, so this is the side that should go up. So there's no way, so you don't fool yourself, don't think that this is going to change when you are going to use the heat press. So the colors are going to stay the same. It's just that this not so saturated part, it's the glue part. So it's the one that has to attach to the material. And thus also take into account that if you want to use the heat press, you'll have to flip your design. So because you're cutting it from the other side. So if you have to mirror it, basically. Yeah, flip or mirror it. No, mirror it. No, but it's basically the same. So flipping and mirroring, right? So yeah, you have to mirror it and then cut it, and then you're gonna remove it. Yeah, and what is also like this supporting part. So this is a bit thicker, and it's also resistant against cutting. So the knife is not going to go through that. So you can be a little bit flexible with the pressure that you use with the blade. Yeah, but the main thing is that you have to remember to flip it. And then each of these heat press vinyls, they have different specification. I think for these, which do not have any data sheet with them, so these are from like 7 years ago or so before I was here. So for those, you can assume that it's 160 degrees and 10 seconds of pressure. So basically, these are the settings for the heat press. So that I probably will show you some other day. I would like to document it as well. So this vinyl, heat press vinyl, it should have some specification, and I think that, for example, here for these examples, for these samples here in this roll, there is a specification. So it's 165 degrees and 17 seconds. So you should have something like this there. For this, we'll put this inside. So, but let's get to it. Yeah, so how to load the material. So now I have this sticker vinyl, so it's not the heat press vinyl, so the design doesn't have to be flipped. So let's load this. So there's a handle here on the back of the machine. So if it's down, then it means that these little wheels are up, and you can actually install the material in between them and the rod. So you should align the rollers so that the design fits in between them, because the machine is going to try to measure the distance between these two wheels, of course if you select the correct setting, and so this area is going to be available for cutting. So you have to align the wheels so that they are always on the white marks over here, and so that they are actually somewhere on the both sides of the design that you want to cut. So let's assume just like this, and then to clamp the material between the rod and the wheels, you have to lift this handle up so it actually is closer to the machine. Now you won't be able to move it. And then here, so I think that the menu here is not so visible, but yeah, maybe I'm going to add some text. So here is the mode selector for sheet selection. So there are three options. So one is roll. So this is when you're loading a roll from the other side. Then if you use this arrow button down, then the other is piece, so which is more this scenario. And the third is edge. So you can specify like a certain location with this one, so where the origin point is. And also note that in vinyl cutter, usually the origin is the bottom left, so the bottom left point. So it's not like, let's say, in Illustrator, or if you're working with creative coding frameworks, that it's not the top left corner, but it's the bottom left. So I think the same is also for the CNC machine, so, but not like that for the laser cutter. So yeah, but we are going to select a piece, and then hit enter. So this button over here. And now it's measuring the width of the material and trying to load it. So in there, here on both sides, on the front side and on the back side, there's a light sensor, so which allows the machine to tell where the edge of the material is. So now it automatically positions on the origin that the machine is considering to be a safe place to place an origin, and basically now the machine is ready to accept jobs.
Where did you press that the thing went inside?
So it's enter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's the enter. So now I'm going to switch over to the Illustrator. So here's the file open that we just made there previously. Yeah, I'm going to close the... So we are going to use the Roland Cut Studio here, so which is a special plugin for Illustrator in order to be able to control the Roland machines. So there's a list of other machines as well, but make sure that the GX-24 is selected. So in case this plugin window is closed, you should go to Window, Extensions, Roland Cut Studio. It opens up. And if nothing is selected, it's going to consider that you want to cut the whole area. But if you select specific elements, then here you need to select also output selected lines. So you can also select the mode, how you want this plugin to interpret your lines in the design. So let's select the output selected lines, and then we can select individual lines over here and cut them. So if we want to cut just one shape in that is one color, then this mode is fine. But let's say that if we want to cut this teddy part, so this sticker, for example, then every time we will select a shape, so the Roland Cut Studio is going to try to align it to the origin. So it's going to move to the 0, 0 position according to its bounding box. So, and that might not be necessarily what we want, unless, no, actually it is what we want, because we want to save space, we want to save material. And then each of the stickers, it could be a separate piece, and then, yeah. So this could work, actually. So let's try to cut this middle part of the teddy, of the beer.
If this is switched off.
The auto update?
Move to origin. The checkbox, this one.
Ah, yeah. Then it's aligning it somewhere else.
It's random. Yeah.
It's really not clear. Rotate. Ah, it's also mirror, so you can do the mirroring over here.
Right.
Yeah. So you need to make sure that it's not mirrored. Usually it doesn't have so much settings somehow.
Yeah. Previously it didn't have so much.
Yeah,
So
but
if you're new at all.
where all of these things can be customizable. So if you want to do mirroring, you do not need to necessarily mirror it in Illustrator. You can do it in the plugin here. So, but in this case, we don't need to mirror it, and I would prefer to move it to the origin. So let's choose this to cut. And in order to cut, you just hit this button, which is output the paths. And then you wait a little bit till the machine gets recognized, and if many machines are connected, you can see a list there. You just hit cut, and then it's cutting.
The weird thing is it cuts randomly sometimes, like the points, so it goes back and forth. A big sheet of paper, then sometimes it gets stuck.
What do you mean by randomly?
If you have a complex shape, I have experienced that it cuts like somewhere in the top and bottom and middle, here and there, and then sometimes the paper gets stuck if you have a roll in the back.
Oh.
Sometimes it gets.
Yeah, then you need to check that the shape that you are cutting is actually connected. So all the things are connected, all the lines are connected, and that actually it is an outline. So because sometimes there might be some raster elements that that are not necessarily lines, and then the plotter is not recognizing those.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, this is why I'm telling about all these outline things, that you should convert your text to outlines, and then when you're importing images, you should trace them so you have clean outlines over there.
If you're cutting out like a half-tone image which consists of hundreds or thousands of dots,
Then it's just a lot of manual labor. So if you want to have all these 1,000 colors, then you need to map each of these colors to.
in one color, but they're different shapes. Like they're closed shapes, but they're separate.
Oh.
So in what order will it cut them? And
that I don't know. So that depends on the algorithm that is actually responsible for tracing them. But I assume that from left to right and from top to bottom, maybe.
In my experience, it's been like random. It calculates something, but I think some history of the dots, how it was made or something.
Yeah, I think at least like I don't haven't used the laser cutter. I mean the vinyl cutter, but with the laser cutter in Nevada, it's been mainly like just kind of the file format, for example, if it's an SVG, it just kind of cuts in the order that the shapes are listed in the file, which are, if you just generate it through an algorithm, it's random, but if you draw it yourself, then it's the order you've drawn them in. And
Probably, yeah.
So, is it the same order that you can see in the layers menu in Illustrator?
Probably, yes. If you can see that, then probably it's taking into account that.
I guess if you open up the shape, you can.
So let's see.
Open the menu there.
Right, where's the minus and where are the layers? Yeah, here. So probably yes, it would go from top to bottom. I don't know whether you can really see this shape in a vector level, so in the vector description mode, but yeah, I assume that this would be the order. We would try to cut it.
SVG is also saved in that same order.
no, so with the laser cutter, I've had some experiences of, like, by mistake having two lines on top of each other that you can't really see, and then it goes and burns through the same place twice, and then it leaves really ugly marks. And
So this is where Illustrator is also not a very good software, because you cannot remove duplicate lines. So later with a CNC week, I'm going to show you VCarve. And in VCarve, there's a really nice feature where you can select duplicate lines and then you can just delete them. I wonder, maybe Inkscape has this capability, but yeah, you have to try that. Yeah, I'm going to switch back to this vinyl cutter. So in order to remove it, so you see that the blade stopped somewhere in the middle of the material, so it's kind of, yeah, it's not really easy to remove. So before you remove the material, so here you should press the menu button, and the first option that is going to appear is Unsetup. And in order to use that, hit Enter. It's going to move the blade aside. And now it's safe to remove the material, but before you remove it, make sure that the clamp is open like this. So it's going to lift these little wheels, and you'll be able to remove the material. So what happens next? Maybe we can bring a little bit more light here. Whoa. Maybe not this light, I'm just gonna turn on the light of the room. Yes? No. I don't know any more switches there. It could be that this is going to be too weak. But here we go. Yeah, there's a lot of light now. So what I usually do, I just cut off the material that I am not going to use. So you can see the cut outlines over here. And then, so this is already a nice laptop sticker. So can you see the lines over here in the camera? I don't know. But yeah, so there's a box of tools just next to the vinyl cutter that you can use in order to remove the material that you do not need. So let's say this one. But you can start from peeling it off from the corner. If you do it slowly, then, and if the cut is good, so if the blade is properly configured, then, so sometimes the pressure is not there, but then here in the menu you can adjust the pressure, and then also here's a little slider on this side that you can use to manually increase the pressure of the blade a tiny bit, like the force, pen force. Already Doing something wrong here. So if you're trying to cut text that is really detailed, then this process can become quite painful. I think the problem here is that it didn't cut the top part of it. Yeah, no, it cut through, but it didn't cut the top part because it didn't make sure whether the object actually fits on the material. So what I'm going to do, just I'm going to cut this manually like this. Yeah. And then there's some things in the middle here that we would like to remove. You can also hold it like this. So you can imagine what happens next. So you just have to carefully remove all the parts that you don't want to have in your design. Here. And the next thing, in order to apply the sticker to your laptop or like any other surface, you can use the transfer tape. Here we have different widths of transfer tapes. A small one and a bigger one and a really big one, so if you want to do some window transfers. So let's take, not this one, but this one. So just try to take a piece that fits your design. Say this much. Then put it on the sticker, and then we should have, there should be a plastic piece in there. So this one you can use in order to make the transfer tape to stick to the material better, so the sticker. And then, so the best way how to remove the supporting material is to do like this. Now, so the sticker is with its sticky side up, and you can apply it to your laptop. Where's the laptop? Let's say this trash box, like on this side, so like so. And then you again use the plastic spatula tool in order to make it stick. So MDF is really not the best material, not for stickers. So it's, you see, it's already coming off. But so your laptop is, so it's really flat and glossy, and the sticker should stick very perfectly, or any kind of glass windows. So here we go. So there are all the stars around. Nice. This is a really nice random success. So yeah, I think I'm like in this demonstration, I'm not gonna show how to do like multi-layer, but I think we could organize another session where I could show the heat press thing separately. So maybe with the demonstration of how to cut the so the heat vinyl, so heat transfer vinyl, and then with a heat press. So I don't know, maybe we could do this as a Monday activity actually. So since there's, so this next Monday there's a recitation, but then Yeah, actually, instead of the recitation, we could do that, or just before.
Transfer vinyl is not any of these.
There should be actually some, like, look, a little piece of red transfer vinyl.
How do you know it's transfer vinyl? It's because of this?
Because of this.
Oh,
So
okay.
if you take this corner, so you can see,
Right.
yeah, it's not sticky, so it's more.
So it already has the other side.
And this is the glue side.
Right.
Oh.
So you have to mirror it on this
Yeah.
t-shirt.
Yeah, you have to mirror it. So let's do that on Monday. So let's say 3 o'clock on Monday. We do the heat transfer thing, and please bring your blank T-shirts, and you can take a look at the material here under the table. So what colors are available? There is also some. Yeah, there's. Is this no gold? Not transfer vinyl, but there's some black. You see, orange. Yeah. Then magenta. Yeah, this sports film. It's for sports. Okay. Then with these samples, I got some good results. So you see, there's lime and green. Yeah, I don't want to use this specification page, but I have to order also new, some fresh vinyl. And then I think I had some sparkles as well. Oh, where is it? The sparkling ones. Maybe somebody used all of them. I used them for Christmas. But, should be somewhere, yeah. But anyhow, we could order more. So.
Can I still ask if there's a... I got intrigued by what Neil was saying about mods and the sort of workflow that you can set up so that you don't have to go through all the menus in that plugin all the time.
Oh yeah, we could do some mods as well. So so in order to use mods with the machine, so mods.mit. Wait, it was center of bits and atoms.mit.com. No, or US, no?
I think it was EDU, I think.
Okay. Yeah, here we go. So there's mods. So we can go to programs, open server program. There should be machines cut SVG cut. Yeah, so let's say cut SVG. And then here, there's laser cutter module, but there should be also, let's refresh that. Vinyl cutter, so GX-24 again. So cut PNG, select PNG file. Do we have any PNG file here? Or easier, it was like, let's just cut SVG. There were a lot of SVG files. So cut SVG, read SVG, select SVG file, use the gas mask to SVG open. Here we go. So there are all these parameters he was telling about. You know, you specify the tool diameter. So it's 0.2. I think it's actually less, so it could be even 0.1. DPI, units, threshold, offset. So where do you calculate it? Waiting for file. Printer not found. But in order to find the printer, you need the print server, so which is a JS, so Node.js server that you need to download on your computer, and you need to run it through terminal. So you activate that, and then from mods you'll be able to make a WebSockets connection. And this is how this web interface is going to be able to control the machine. So you need to establish a link between something that runs on the computer and is able to control the serial port, and the web interface. So the web interface can connect with your computer program through WebSockets or other or TCP or UDP. But WebSockets so far it's kind of the most popular for these cases. So you enter. So this here is like a local address of your computer. So the so-called Ethernet loopback address. So also sometimes referred to as localhost. So this IP address is sometimes masked as localhost. And then this is the port that the Node.js program is going to keep open. So going to use to listen to your commands. And then when you open the Node.js program, then you will be able to click open. Although, I'm not sure. So maybe. Do we have brew installed here? No, there's no brew. So you could install npm here on this computer. Actually, as an exercise, it would be interesting that if you tried to install all the flow here, so mods and Node.js server, I could show you how to do that, and you would document that. So there'll be an alternative. And actually, it's better in terms of that. This is open source.
Yeah, and then there's the community edition also, which I don't know how.
It's basically the same. It's just a bit more colorful.
Okay.
So I can show you both. And then this is just the convenient way. So when somebody runs into the lab and they need to make a sticker quickly, then through Illustrator and it's Roland Cut Studio, it's the fastest way how to do it. But yeah, for the Fab Academy, it's actually so. Yeah, this is the way.
Did you actually design it for vinyl cutting?
No, not just for vinyl cutting. It's also for PCB milling. So you can use this with the SRM and MDX machines. You can also use it with bigger CNC machines. So mods is a research project in terms. I think it also aims to replace the commercial software at the lab in a way. So that you don't need to use all the commercial slicers and G-code interpreters in order to run machines. So if something fails or you don't have a license for something, then mods can be the way to go. Yeah, so let's take another 5-minute break and then continue with the laser cutter. Okay, testing audio. Now we are at the laser cutter. Again, testing audio one more time. It should be possible to hear me in the big room. So yeah, now hear the big room. There's excellent connection, even. Yeah, audio one more time. It should be possible to hear me in the big room. So yeah, now. Okay. Wow, where did you find it?
So, remember the box of crap we got from Pasi?
Mm-hmm.
There was this iPhone cable.
Oh,
so
perfect.
So I opened it, and it had these thin cables.
Oh.
So I created this beautiful...
It's good that we didn't throw it out.
Yeah.
Oh.
I knew there was going to be.
Very nice. Yeah, that looks excellent. Well, you completely took it apart, so you're going to print the rest of the parts for
No,
us?
I just, get a new wiring, because, this is the original one, and this is my old replacement.
Oh.
So
Wait, this is the original one, and this is the new one. And you want to replace that with the thinner ones?
Yeah, because this doesn't go in this hole.
Oh, okay. Okay. Nice. So again, we are going to do it in a similar way as with the vinyl cutter. So let's go into the other room. yeah, so I'm going to lift the camera a little bit so that we can see what's going on also around. So the most important things to remember is that you turn this rotary switch 360 degrees clockwise, so that you open up the ventilation, the ventilation. How do you call them? Like ventilation vents. Yeah. So this is one switch, and then for the laser cutter specifically, there's another one. So you can see this nice Illustrator illustration sign here, that if you push it up, then it's open. And you can tell also that by the sound that comes from it. So what this does, it extracts the fumes from the laser cutter. And as you remember from yesterday's lecture, that's quite important. So it does two things. So it removes the toxic fumes, and it also makes sure that if there's any possibility of fire, so there's enough airflow so that the fire doesn't happen. So maybe the last part is not completely true, but yeah, this is for the fumes. So while we are talking, I'm just going to keep it down, so keep it closed. But yeah, just if you do it like so, then always remember before you start cutting, make sure that it's open.
Soundtrack for the picture.
Yeah. So be careful. So there's the cable. So now I'm going to point the camera a little bit downwards so we can see the laser cutter specifically, like so. So to turn on the laser cutter, so here we're using the Fabman system, which is like a controller box over here that is controlling the current supply, so the power supply for the laser cutter. And so in the future, so if I'm going to manage to install it to the other machines and other workspaces, you'll have your HSL card or your Fabman account, and you'll be able to open the interface and log into the system, or just swipe the card to activate the machine. So it does two things. So it's access control. So for those people who cannot use the laser cutter, they are not going to be able to switch the laser cutter on. But in this case, everybody can activate the laser cutter just by using this admin card. So you have full access to the laser cutter by using the card that is always there. And then the second thing is safety, which is actually the main reason for now why this box is installed here. Because every 5 minutes, it is going to scream, and it's going to try to pull your attention so that you look at the laser. So actually from 5 minutes, I should set it to 3 minutes. So yeah, because there have been a few times when the laser really catches fire, and it's really, really important to keep an eye on it, because this, as you saw in the pictures yesterday in the lecture, so we don't want this to burn down. No. And when it starts to attract your attention, then what you have to do, you have to run here. Obviously, you'll see what's going on the laser, and you'll need to press this button so that to confirm that you are here and you're watching. If you're going to fail and you're not going to manage to run to the laser, or you're not going to be close to the laser at the point, then it's just going to switch off the laser. So let's say you're running a really long job, and you're using expensive material, and your I don't know, your master thesis evaluation depends on that, and you're gonna run away, and you're not gonna be here when the device is trying to attract your attention. Your job is gonna be lost, and so you'll have to repeat it. So you'll have to buy new material and all the consequences. So in order to switch on the machine, you put the card on like this. And then you need to use the switch there as well. So usually it's on, but so like this. It's gonna try to initialize first. So here on the display, you will see that it's initializing. And then when it's not shown there anymore, then it's ready to actually accept jobs from the computer. So the computer is connected to the machine via USB connection. So it can be also connected via Ethernet cable, crossover Ethernet cable. But that's another issue. So here to the left from the machine we have some scrap material. You can always use that in order to test the settings of the laser. So if you have a bigger piece of expensive material, you can usually find something similar, the same thickness or the same characteristics in the scrap material storage. And then so usually keep in mind that it's better to first test a small piece with the settings that you have chosen, and then cut the big piece. Do not try to cut all your complicated design with the settings that you find on the wiki page there. So there's a list of recommended settings, so I'm gonna cover that as well. But you should take those settings as a starting point, not necessarily as something that is going to work for sure. So because there are many things that can affect the cut quality. So first of all, it could be that the lens is not completely clear, so it's a bit dusty. The mirrors are dusty. So the age of the laser tube, so it's 2 years old, so it might be not so powerful as when just installed. So you have to take those settings as a starting point and then check whether it cuts through, where it engraves in the way you want, and then you could proceed. So you adjust those, the speed and power and the frequency, and then you continue with those with the real design that you need to cut. So first thing that you want to do is to take some scrap material to test. So let's take, this is an ugly piece. Let's take something that is a bit more square. Let's say this. So this seems like a 6mm MDF. So we can actually measure that precisely. So do we have a caliper over here? So yeah, make sure that you measure your material. So this is 6mm MDF exactly. And then you install it into the machine. You put into the machine. I'm gonna put it somewhere in the middle because like the camera otherwise cannot see the corner. Maybe like this. You can use these clamps on the sides of the build plate in order to clamp it down. In this case, it only causes trouble. And let's say that we are going to use this part of the material here, so this square. Also make sure that you know the size of the area that you're going to cut. So in this case, it seems like 15 by 15 centimeters approximately. Yeah, 15 by 15. So because you will need to enter this into the laser driver later. The next thing is that you need to deactivate the stepper motors so that you can freely move the axis around. Because like, look, because I need to set the focus, so I need to kind of set the 0 point of the axis to this top left point of the square that I'm going to use for cutting as the canvas. And if I'm going to try to move it just like that, it's not gonna let me. And don't try to use force because you can break the machine like that. And you will be able to do that if you disable the stepper motors. So in order to do that, to disable those, you press the button XY off. So it's labeled XY off here. And it's gonna ask you, XY off really? And you say yes by hitting the green button here. So now the XY is disabled. You can open the lid again. And you can move this around. So, but now you'll notice that there's, so how do you tell that it's actually hitting the corner? Worry not. So you close it down also. Always be careful, do not drop the lid. So you can activate the pointer. So it's a red visible laser light pointer that is going to illuminate the point, the place where it's aiming at. See, there's a little red dot over there. So this, so it's also, do not trust it. So it's maybe plus minus 1 millimeter. So do not trust it for sure. So for example, if you try to align parts and you switch the machine off and you try to realign the beam to the origin, so it's not necessarily going to match the previous cuts that you had. So always, if you want to have higher precision, then try to reuse the same origin point always. So let's say you want to do cutting and engraving, and then cutting with a different frequency, or engraving with a different laser power. So try to keep the same home, like the same 0 point for X and Y axis when you're doing that. So then you can be sure that it's going to be precise. So if you're cutting and then rushing, let's say switching off the machine or changing the origin, and then you want to go back and engrave the previous part, it's not going to be precise. I mean, you can. So if it's not critical, then it can work. But if you want to be really precise, then try to reuse the same home. And once you have moved the so the pointer to the point where you want to have your origin, you have to press set home here. And in order to make sure that it actually set the home, you hit reset. And if it doesn't move, then it's fine. Always when you hit reset, it's going to move back to the 0 origin. And at this point, we are actually ready to switch over to our design. Let's open Illustrator.
So no more code.
Yeah, because no.
This used to have a lid or something.
Yeah, we removed it. So because then you can open the laser lid in 2 places, and that sometimes is confusing. And one of our guests kept this part open, and at the same time opened also the other one, and it crashed against the wall. So, and then we couldn't use the laser for a month because we were waiting for the replacement glass. So now it's just the one, and that's it. So yeah, here in Illustrator, you can just open up the file that we created before. So where it is, my design, yes, here we go.
Sorry, where did you store the file? Is it just on a flash drive or?
Yeah, in a flash drive. So we are working also on a shared folder setup so that you can make your file on one computer and then you can access also from the others, but that's the work in progress. Yeah, so yeah, let's change the size of the canvas so it matches more the dimensions of the material of the area that we want to cut. So it was 15 by 15, so 150 times 150, and yeah, instead of cutting text and this and the polar bear, let's try to do something with this one. Yeah, you see this is going to start to blink, and in a few seconds also to scream. And start to scream. Now, yeah. So if you're doing something else or you're having headphones, then you're not going to hear that or not notice that, but it's important to notice and to check what your laser is doing and press this button, and then it is quiet for another 5 minutes, or like I'm going to set it to 3 minutes. Yeah, let's go back to Illustrator. So we have this one. I'm going to simplify it a little bit. I'm going to remove the outline, so which is more a shape. And then, yeah, I'm going to leave this one. So I will focus on engraving. So first, I'm going to engrave these black parts. So I'm going to set these darker parts to I wonder what would be the best way to do it. So yeah, I'm going to set these darker parts to black. Can I move them around? Yeah. Okay. And then the other parts to other colors. So the cheeks I'm going to set to red, or 255 0 0 over here. And then the background, so the actual volume, I'm not gonna set a color to this one, but I'm gonna turn it into an outline like so, and I'm gonna set the outline color to pure black as well. And I think I'm not gonna need these areas so much. And in order to be able to cut the line, so lines are going to be used for cutting, and then the shapes are going to be used for engraving, and the color of the shapes can be mapped to certain parameters. So in order to be able to cut, we need to specify the width or the thickness of the stroke to 0.01 millimeters, like so.
How much 0.01?
0.01. So it's 1/100th of a millimeter.
So in Corel Draw, that's called the
Hairline.
line?
Yeah. And then you go to print settings. So file, print. And here we have a preset, Fablab 1000. Select that. You'll notice that it has this ignore artboards component. So if you want to align your design to the area that you're cutting, then feel free to uncheck it. It's going to take into account the size of the artboard and where the design is located on the artboard. If you keep this checked, then it's just going to try to find where the shapes are on the artboard, and it is going to move the shapes to closer to the home position of the laser. So in this case, I actually would like it to fit in the area. So for the media size, it's selected to be defined by the driver, and there's a trick to it. So you should go to setup, and then preferences, in order to open the Epilog engraver driver. And here you have a list of settings. So it starts from the job type. So if you select raster, so it's going to be only for engraving. So if you want to engrave parts of your design, then you should select that. And if you select vector, so it's only for the parts of the design that you want to cut. So if you want just cut or mark, then select that. If you select combine, it's going to try to do both. And for each of those, so if you select raster, so the raster settings are here on the top. And for the vector, so the vector settings are here on the bottom. So you notice that there are a bit more settings. So for cutting, you have speed, power, and frequency, and then for engraving, you just have the speed and power, and then the density, or rather the resolution, is going to be determined by the resolution that is set here. So in this case, it's 600 dpi. If you want it to engrave faster, you can set it to less, to 300, but then you might need to increase power in order to make the engraving more visible. So usually stick to 600, it's okay, but if you're doing a lot of so bigger surface than and you want to make it faster and the resolution doesn't affect the quality that you want to have at the end, then you might change that. So in our case, we want combined, so as we want to be able to edit both of these. And also notice that we set different colors for the fill. So these settings over here, by default, they align to the black color. So you can control the parameters, how the black color is going to be engraved on the material. So 100 for the speed and 50 for the power. So since the black color I will probably want to engrave more, so I'm going to set the power to 75 here, so a bit higher. And then for the vector setting, so the speed and power and frequency, we should look up the recommended values. And here, when you open the browser, you'll see the material settings shortcut over here. And this gets you to the wiki where there's a table of the values that can be used as a starting point, as I explained before. So these can be used as a starting point, but always make sure that you do a test first. And we need the wood and MDF category. So and for MDF, so we are going to use the 6mm MDF. So the settings are 8 for speed, 8% speed, 75% for the power, and 500 for the frequency. So for wood and MDF in general, so 500 hertz is the frequency that seems to be acceptable and good to use. It doesn't leave too much burn, too much black edges, so it doesn't burn the edges so much. And then for plastics, you would usually see that the frequency is 5000. So if you remember from the lecture yesterday, so if it's lower, then it's rather sparse, so the dots are more far apart from each other. And then if it's higher, then it's more dense, so it produces kind of a cleaner cut. And for acrylics, it's kind of important to have this cleaner cut. So yeah, for MDF, so 875, 500. So let's see how that works. Let's go to Illustrator. 500. And then here, you see there's a part piece size, so which is important. So this is why we measured the material first. So in here we will enter the area size of the area that we want to consider. And another setting that for now is okay is the auto focus. So you can set it also manually. I will show you how to do it in a minute, but let's leave it on for now. And then you hit OK. Oh yeah, I forgot to show one more thing. So I will go back to preferences. So since we're using this red color for the cheeks, so we can go to color mapping and we can enable it. Oh my god, it's already 5 minutes. And for the color mapping, you see these default RGB colors over here. And for each of these colors, you can define different settings. So and for the red color, we want to have a engraving that is not so intense as for the black color. So what we are going to do, we are going to set the speed to 100 and the power to 45. So for the black color, we define the power as 75. And for the frequency, so for engraving, it doesn't really matter. So because we are going to uncheck the vector part, so we are not going to use the red color for cutting any lines, but so and air assists, I think we should leave the air assist still on. And then in order to set the settings, you need to press this button over here. It's going to transfer the settings to this list. So now for the red color, it's going to use 100% speed, 45% of power. And yeah, and now we can hit OK. And then print once. And now for this print dialog, in order to take into account the driver settings and for the media size. So we need to click done, and then go to file, print once more, and now it's going to take into account the size that that is defined by the driver, like here. Like one more thing that we might need is like a square, like a rectangle that is cutting out the area. So, you know, hit done, and I'm going to add that. So here like this, and also what I'm going to do, I'm going to add some rounded corners.
Isn't it anybody gonna cut the edge of the tail there, which is 0.01? Isn't it gonna cut it out anyway? Or did you?
True. Yeah, it's going to do that. Yes. So file, print, and then we can hit print. And what it does now, it should send it to the laser. So you should see the job on the laser. I'm going to transition it to the laser here. Yeah, you should see the file name here on the display. So as you see, it's mydesign.ai here. And all you have to do is to launch it is to press the green button, but not too fast, because that's very important. So we have to activate the fume exhaust first. And now you press the green button. And first it's going to measure the focus. And then it's going to continue with engraving. Yeah, but it's also not producing too much fumes.
Is there some specific material we should be using for this week's construction kit project?
You can choose any of the materials that we have available there here. So we have plywood, we have MDF, we have acrylics. So and I can show you what's available in the storage. So generally, it is that for the plywood and MDF, the maximum thickness is 0.6. You probably can cut also 0.8, but it's going to be really hard and it's going to leave burn marks. I mean, it's really about aesthetics with the laser. So if you're cutting thick wood material, wood-based material, it's going to look, you know, really burnt at the edges. So if you're cutting something like a plywood that is 2 millimeters thick, then you'll have like really nice light brownish edges, so it will look really good. But if you're cutting something that is already 6 millimeters thick, you will see that it's going to have quite dark edges. With acrylics, the maximum thickness that you can cut is 1 centimeter. And with acrylics, the cool part is that it doesn't leave any burn marks. So really, so since you're using a higher frequency, it leaves also a really clean cut. Yeah.
If I want to do sort of construction tips, it's like natural edge, or what was it, a natural hinge, and living hinge, I keep forgetting it. If there's some specific like thickness you should be using for that, I'd imagine that.
Oh, that you have to discover yourself. Yeah, you have to experiment with the machine and see. Actually, you have to document that how you came to the point when it actually started where your living hinge started to live. And now when it's finished cutting, so you can hit the reset button so that the laser, the mirrors, they return to their home position, and you wait for a little bit, so a minute or so that the fumes get extracted properly. And then once they are out, so you can open it up, you can take the material out, you can check. So see, this is why it's good to first check the settings, because it's not necessarily cuts always through. And it also seems that for these engraved parts there was an outline that actually resulted into a cut. But this is not too far off. You could if you use a little bit of force, you can still get it out. Yeah. There you go. So let's try one more time with adjusted settings. So now I can use this corner over here. I will disable the X and Y axis. Again, X, Y off. Yes, I want them off. Can move this around. I'll put this here, and I will move it to this area over here. And what I'm going to do this time, I'm going to set the focus manually, and for this, you use this tool over here. And here on the side of the laser, there are up and down buttons, can be used to move the Z-axis down. And when it's low enough, you can attach this thing. And basically, concept is the surface area that you are cutting. It should touch the tip of this tool slightly. So what do? You move it up. So you can use a little piece of paper, for example, in order to see where it slides through. So it should be, this is a bit too tight. This is good. And then you can remove it. Also, we want to make sure that we set the home where it is currently. It's reset. Now we're going to go to Illustrator. So here we are going to make sure. Yeah, I wonder why did it cut these, because I didn't want to cut them really. So this is where it probably makes sense to separate your job in two parts. So let's do it this time. So first, let's specify something that is going to be on the engraving. So let's go. One more thing. I'm just going to make sure that I know the size of the material once more. Do you see a ruler somewhere here?
No, I haven't seen a ruler.
Oh. we go. Measurement tape. Here we go. So we'll open this again. Measure this. Now it's going to be 13 by 13. Okay, let's set this up. So I'm going to go to File, Print, Setup, and Preferences. I'm going to enter 130, 130. Hit OK. Print and done. And then I'm going to open it. Before opening it, I'm also going to set this up to 130, 130. It's nice that it is all centered. So File, Print, and now it's taking into account the settings from the driver. And now I go to Setup, Preferences, and I'm going to select the raster only option. And for the black color, I'm going to set 75, or I could even go more, go with 85. And then for the color mapping, here, yeah, I'm going to leave the same. So enable color mapping and then go to general. And then hit OK. Print. And print one more time. So now it's sent it to the laser. And I'm going to prepare another job which is going to be only for cutting. And for that I'm going to go to File, Print, Setup, Preferences.
You have to close and reopen the print window after doing the print preferences, or is that just for the size of the job?
So, I mean, you do it once. You just have to do it once, and then every time you open up the print settings next time, it's going to read from the previously set. It's just a way of refreshing the print settings window.
But you don't need to do that changing the speed, for example?
No,
Yeah.
no. Somehow not. I don't know. Yeah, because the speed, the thing with the speed is that it doesn't show up anywhere here. So, but it's still set in the printer driver. So for this preview, it is necessary to refresh the print window. So in case you want to see the preview. So if you don't want to see the preview, then Pro is just fine. So you don't have to open the print window again. But here, so for cutting, you select vector only. And for the color mapping, I'm going to disable the color mapping because we are just using the black color. And I'm going to decrease the speed to 5%. So which means that it's going to spend a bit more time in the same location and possibly cut through properly. Hit OK. Print.
What was the color of the engraving? Isn't the bow tie also black? So
Yeah, it's black, but so there for the engraving we use two colors, and for cutting we use just one.
Yeah, but so it's not going to try to cut the black bow tie, is it? Alright.
Let's check. There's actually a possibility that there's this is why it's cut, because there's another line underneath.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, so this was the initial problem. This is what
Okay.
So actually then what we could do,
I think it is also so that like engraving just cares about fill color, while cutting only cares about line color.
yeah, it should be always like that. This is why I got a bit confused. So basically we just need to remove the duplicate lines. And what I'm going to do, so I think this is good that we have encountered this problem. So I'm going to cut these out. I want to see this also has it. This doesn't have it. I'm going to put them on another layer. So it's Control Shift V, so it pastes it in place. Now I'm going to hide it, and then now with the vector tool, I'm going to select these individual shapes here.
So it's just going to cut the cheeks.
Yeah, we don't want to cut those.
If you just paste the same shapes and do Pathfinder,
Combine them.
combine them. That's all going to be
That could be an option. Yeah, let's select these two. I'm gonna copy those, hide this, go back to the visible layer, paste those. This is going to combine three shapes. Window, Pathfinder, combine. Now you can change this back to black. No. Yeah. Yeah. In this case, I'm going to go inside here. Yep. What else do we have here? Nothing. So I'm going to select this, and then I need to make sure that this is 0.01. Yeah. And I can unhide this. And now I'll go to the print settings once more. And in this case, yeah, I just wanted also to show how to separate the jobs, but yeah, I could actually go back to combine mode again.
But maybe just to show how the separation works.
Yeah, okay, so now
You
I
have the one job in
Oh,
the
yeah.
printer, right?
Yeah.
With the laser cutter.
yeah, so I just now wondering which, so it's going to be job 2, and now we already have the third, so, okay, yeah, let's do the cutting only, so check, so this is disabled, that's good, so vector, so we're cutting, we are using these parameters, hit OK, then I hit print, now we are sending the job number 4 to the laser. Okay, so now I'm going to transition to the laser mode over here. So now we have 4 jobs. So the first one was the one that we got, so which created this guy. So where the lines were cut where we didn't expect them to be cut, and these lines were there because there were duplicate lines underneath the shapes. So you should check that. And now, so we have 4 jobs. So the second job that we uploaded, it was engraving only. So it's going to, it has also color mapping. So it's going to use one settings for the black color, so for the black fills in the design, and another like a bit lighter settings for the red color. And then number 3 is still a cutting job with the extra lines that we have here. And then number 4, the last one, is a job with the fixed lines, with the fixed outline that we just did. So in order to move in between jobs, you use these arrow buttons over here. So up and down. So up, yeah, if you go down, it's going to move like in a back here, like from 3 to 2 and from 2 to 1. And if you press up, then it's going to move, like increase the number. So we need to select job 2. And once we see the job 2 selected over here, you press the green button. Well, one thing that we forgot is that we actually selected, we wanted to do manual focus, but so yeah, we had to uncheck the check mark, but we can do that still for the cutting. So sometimes that can save time. So if you set the focus manually, then it doesn't do these 10 seconds of measuring the focus.
Is the auto focus as good as the manual focus?
Pretty much the same. I mean, if you're aiming for more detail, then sometimes the manual focus. The manual focus works, so it's necessary when you have a curved surface. So let's say you want to engrave on the other end of ceramic something, or something that is rather round, then you can adjust the focus on the top part, so exactly at the point where you want the focus to be.
You can also, I think, combine separate jobs. Like you have 3 files, so the first file does 1 layer, the second file you manually put it somewhere.
Yeah, you can like the combination of the settings that you have there in the driver and the possibilities in terms of job control with the laser, so you can do really complicated stuff.
You can do some 2D, like cutting from 2 different angles of like cutting a piece and then you move it manually. So
Yeah, you can do double-sided.
So
So for example, if you cut something out and engrave from one side, then you can use the same pocket into the material, and you can flip it around. So now I'll hit reset to return it to the home position, and I'm going to use the arrows to select job number 4. So it's actually done for me already, so it's the last job that has been uploaded. And all I have to do, I have to press the green button, and it's going to start cutting. Yeah, so, yeah, but it's all recorded, I guess. You can use these Sharpie tools in order to remove smaller parts if needed. Also, the same rules as for the coffee machine apply here. So if you do things, then you're supposed to clean up after yourself. So try to leave the space in a better condition as it was when you arrived. So it's just like, so it's kind of respecting each other. Yeah, that's with the CNC machine. So you can also tell that because it has these T-bones over here. So because the CNC machine, it usually has the tools which have the diameter. So if you wouldn't have the T-bones, it would have a fillet over here. And the other part, it wouldn't fit really nicely in. Okay, it's finished. So reset. Now let's open it up. See? Yeah, now it cut through nicely. So like this. There's another way that you can use in order to reduce these burn marks. So what you can do, so this time I also opened up the lid too quickly, so you feel that this is toxic, this is really bad. There's a gas mask, just in case this happens, but I was too enthusiastic, that's bad. So you can use the masking tape in order to cover the material. So let's try to do that. This piece is good, but not good enough. Oh, there's cork. Okay. This looks nice. Let's use this. So in order to be able to install the material in a nicer way, I'm gonna again. So if you forget how to set the focus, then there's like a little manual over here on this white sticker, so that you you activate the pointer. You can see that the green light is on, so it should be on. Then press XY off, then green for OK. Then you can open it up and position it. Just move it away a little bit. Like that. Yeah, I can use the 13 by 13 centimeters also here. And yeah, then set home once more, reset to check. And yeah, let's set the focus manually this time. What? Yeah, first before we set the focus manually. So with the tape, we apply it like this. We apply it on the material so that it actually catches the fumes and the particles, and the particles, they do not end up on the surface. So when you remove the tape, you'll also remove the burn marks at the same time. So this is nice, and this is the right time when to set the focus. Like this, you can use this little piece of paper. Yeah, this is perfect. So, and now it is important to watch the settings. So, this time I'm going to do a combined operation. So, print, setup, preferences, and I'm going to set it combined. Go to color mapping, enable it, go to general, and I'm going to disable the autofocus here. And hit OK, print, and print once more. So now it's job number 5 on the laser cutter. So now when we are going to run it, you will see that it's not going to have the focus operation. It's just going to start to engrave immediately. See that? And in this case, it has to engrave also through the masking tape. So if you do this, then you should do a test that the engraving power is strong enough to, so it also hits through the masking tape. Try not to look at the reflections there. I mean, this window, it protects you from most of the laser, but still, like the reflections are quite strong.
Ja, det var med. Ja, har vi det?
Sorry?
When will the final cutter activity start on Monday?
On Monday at 3. Yeah, let's make it 3. And then at 4 there's the global recitation, so if we want to listen to that, then we can. So we spend 1 hour with the vinyl cutter, try out the heat press, and then we can switch over to the recitation if it's interesting.
What is the recitation?
It's going to be about project management. So Norella from the Fab Foundation is going to tell about the practices they use in order to manage bigger projects. So that could be interesting. And here we go. This. You can remove the masking tape. Yeah. And so this is the previous one. So yeah, you see. So this is without the masking tape. This is with. See? Yeah. Okay, and so that's it for today, I guess. That's the introduction to computer-controlled cutting in a practical way. I mean, the same thing with mods would apply here. So we could install the server, and we would be able to control this laser cutter through mods. So actually, we could try to do that next week separately and see how it works. So, yeah. And then, so when you finish working with the laser cutter, also don't forget to clean up. So close this, so you don't have to touch the rotary switch, but this is good to close because it generates noise. And then you can press this stop button on the box, and it's going to disable power supply to the laser. Yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching, and see you on Monday.